There's no option, so it's going to be local.
Is it recording?
Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Coffee Talk. We're your hosts, Jason.
And I'm Carrie. Cheers.
And today on this Coffee Talk, we're going to be talking about intelligent agents. So what exactly are intelligent agents? Well, they're ways of setting up automated notifications that you can trigger based on a million different events in D2L to send emails to your students. And you can set them up for various different reasons, whether or not they're logging into the course, if it's an online course, whether they're not submitting assignments, whether they're doing extremely well in the course and have really good grades and you just want to give them some inspiration to keep going. There's a lot of different things we can set up, and we're going to show you how to do that, right, Carrie?
That's right. All right, so when you're going to set up an intelligent agent, the first thing you want to do is go into your course, and under admin, course admin, you have all these options. If you scroll down to communication, you'll see intelligent agents at the bottom. So you want to click on intelligent agents, and you'll notice we have none here. There are none that just populate automatically. So we always have to create your intelligent agents. But before we do that, there's one really important thing you want to do, and that's click on this settings cog over on the right here. And you'll notice the system defaults. So the name that an email comes from, if you're going to email your students because of not showing up to the course or not doing well or doing great, the email is going to come from no reply. And Jason, what do you do when you get an email from no reply?
I think it's coming from a computer, so I just delete it. I usually think it's spam.
Right. We either delete it, or it might automatically go to spam, or we just ignore it altogether. So we don't want our students to think they're getting a really important email from no reply. So the first thing you want to do is change the name that your email is coming from.
So like Austin Teacher 11?
I would recommend doing it to the name that your students typically see emails from you.
Okay.
Right? So you're going to type in your name. And then if they get this email and they know it's from you, maybe they're going to reply to it. So you want to change the email as well to your Del Tech email. So if they reply to you, which I'll tell you about later, I've had many students reply to my intelligent agents, you want to make sure it's going to get to you. So you change it so that your custom values are now your name and your email. And then you're going to click save. All right, so then we're going to go in and we're actually going to start an intelligent agent. So we're going to hit new agent pops up, okay? So we'll come back to naming our intelligent agent, but Jason, why don't you talk about the different criteria, the different reasons we could send these agents?
So there's a couple of different things that we can do. We're going to talk about some special custom criteria that you can develop later, but D2L comes with two pre-built criteria, login activity and course activity. Now, login activity I don't think is very useful because all it says is that your students have actually logged into D2L. So all they did was they logged into the portal, they click courses, and they're sitting there looking at all the courses. So that's not really meaningful because if they don't actually click into your course, it's not going to check anything. Course activity will actually see, did the student enter your course? Have they been in there, clicked on it, viewed it for anything? And so we can look to see, especially in online courses, have students been in here in the last week? So typically you might want to say the user has not accessed this course in 7 days. And if they haven't, we'll show you how we can set up a notification that kind of nudges them like, hey, did you forget to look at the resources? Why haven't you logged in? Is everything all right? So how do we set up some of those actions there, Carrie?
All right, so after we have set up our criteria, number one, we're going to scroll down to number two that says actions. And the first action is, how often do you want to respond to this? How often, when they meet that criteria, are you going to have an action happen? So the first one is take action the first time the agent happens. So the first time a student misses class for 7 days or doesn't log into D2L for 7 days, it's going to send an email. Or we can pick one that says every time they go 7 days without checking into the course, they're going to get an email. With the course activity, we recommend the every time. Some of the other ones, it makes more sense just to only send it the first time. So we're going to choose select every time. And what's going to happen when they actually meet that criteria is they're going to get an email. So we click this, send an email when the criteria is satisfied. This is kind of the whole point of using an intelligent agent. That just means that when a student meets that criteria, I'm not going to have to personally see that in my class progress and send them the email. D2L is going to send them that email automatically.
So you mean we can set it up in the beginning of the semester and forget that we even did it?
It
just runs automatically.
Set it and forget it.
Awesome.
All right. So to write who is going to, you're not going to probably remember, and D2L is so specific, but if you look at this little blue phrase down here, it says, what special email addresses can I use? And you click on that, you'll see it tells you exactly what to use. And you want to use this initiating user replace string. And we can just copy it right from this and paste it in. So that means any user who meets that criteria is going to get this email.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then we're going to type in subject. And you want it to be something that students are going to actually open. So maybe I'll say,
where the hell have you been?
Maybe you want to be a little more positive.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. What do we want to say?
I've posted some great resources.
Oh my gosh, I cannot type. That's what I can say. Check out the great resources.
Good point. So we should always keep it positive
On D2L.
so that students think that you're not really targeting them for the negative and you're trying to encourage them to keep going.
Exactly. So we want to stay positive. And then we can write a message. And you want to kind of keep it simple. I'm going to just copy my typical message right into here for you. Just something simple. Don't forget, I put all these great resources in for you. It's all there for your success. If you're having trouble, reach out and then sign it with whatever students call you. It's going to look like it's coming straight from you. Now, Jason, notice I didn't write dear a name, right? Why didn't I do that?
So, Carrie, well, what we've noticed is sometimes in emails, those replace strings don't always work once the email is sent off the system. So in my course for the semester, I wanted to send a great welcome email and make it personalized. So it would say like, Dear Tammy, Dear Carrie, Dear Sarah. And I put Dear First Name. And so every email went out saying, Dear First Name.
Yes. So we don't recommend using the replace strings within your email. Just stick to using it in your to, where they won't actually see it. Right? So then the other cool thing is that you can actually use your quick links that you use in other parts of your courses, and you can actually, maybe you want to say, have you seen this project that I posted, and give them a link straight to it so that they get the same resources that everybody else gets. Or you can attach an image or attach a file. Maybe you want to send them an image of a flyer of tutoring times or some other options. You can attach that right into your email. And then we come down to the scheduling part. So Jason, how often should we schedule these to run?
So scheduling is not one of the mandatory fields, but in the whole set it and forget it theme, we kind of want to set that up. Otherwise, you have to manually run these reports. And when you do it, it will send all those emails, but you'd have to remember to come in and run it. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a schedule. So we're going to check the use schedule button. We're going to go update schedule because we see that right now it says we don't have one. And there's a couple things here that we want to fill out. Kind of starting from the bottom, I'm going to start with has a start date and has an end date. Typically, for course activity, we're going to want to start this the beginning of the semester, or in this case, we'll say today, which is the 17th. And the end date, we want to put the end of the course, maybe a week prior to the end, because by that point, people have already submitted all their assignments. However, if you just put a start date on this, the intelligent agents will run however often you tell it to, including after the semester. So you might have students completed your course, got their grade, and all of a sudden, for the next every week after that, they're getting emails saying, hey, you haven't logged into the course in 7 days. So you definitely want to put an end date.
And they will email you back saying, I have no intention of attending your course ever again.
Correct.
Yeah.
Some of them are funny. Some of them, well, let's leave it. Some of them are funny. Now, how often you want this to run? We kind of have to separate this from that course activity, how far back we're going to look. So the course activity, we said, we want to look at the last 7 days and say, did this student log in? Now the question is, how often should we look? So if we change this to daily and run it every day, it's going to say from today, for the last week, has that student logged in? And then tomorrow, it will shift everything a day and say, now has that student logged in the last 7 days? Some people try to be creative by doing things like every third day run for the past 5 days. And I feel like that gets very confusing. So keep it simple. Run it daily, weekly, monthly. So we're going to run this daily. So every day, it's going to look 1 week historically and say, has this person logged in? If they have, move on to the next one. If they have not, send them that email that we've set up. So we click update, and now we have our schedule. Oh, but it helps if we put a name in there.
Yeah. You want to name it something along the lines of what it's going to do for you, but the title's just for you, so you can see it in your agent list. The students don't actually see the title of the intelligent agent.
But Carrie, what about some of those custom release conditions? Because it's great that we can do course activity, but what about when students don't submit activities? Or what if students are not doing well in your course and you want to give them some resources? How do we do those?
Yeah, so the best way to kind of show you that is to show you my intelligent agents I used last semester in my math courses. So I did run a course activity, and I also had failed the first test. So one of the things we notice is that oftentimes when students fail the first test, they kind of give up and they don't come back, and you kind of have to hunt them down. So I wanted to kind of automatically, as soon as I posted that grade, I wanted an email to go to my students to say, like, you know, you didn't do so well on that test, to try and help them kind of return back to the course and not get too discouraged right away. So the way that you do that is you kind of set up a lot of the same similar things, but instead of choosing login activity or course activity, you choose release conditions. So you can attach an existing, which you have to already have created some, or you can create and attach. So when you click this create and attach, you'll notice there's a whole bunch of different condition types that you can choose. You can have whether or not students have submitted to a folder. Maybe once they submit, you want to send them something saying, great job submitting your final project, high five, you're all done. Or maybe you want to say, you haven't submitted, don't forget this is due tonight and this is worth 30% of your grade. So you can kind of jump on students who are kind of not meeting the standard that you're expecting. There's lots of other options here. You can scroll through anytime, discussion posts, score on a quiz, but this one was a grade value on a grade item that I created. So I manually enter these grades, so it's going to just be a grade item in my grade book. So if I click that option, I then get to tell the intelligent agent exactly which grade I want them to choose. So I have them pick the unit test, and then what's my criteria? Well, we know failing means they got less than a 75 on the test, so I'm going to say they got less than 75%. And that means if I put it in points based, if I put it in percent based, however I put it into D2L, it's going to know, was it 75% or lower? So once I create this, you see it's already created. This is the agent. This is what it's going to react to. So my email is the same. It's still going to catch anybody who did not pass this test.
But it looks like how often your action repetition is a little different.
That's right. This only needs to happen once. They don't take a Unit 1 test over and over again. Oh. So just the first time that they fail the Unit 1 test, they're going to get this email. Yeah. Okay. So, and I tried to make sure that my email was really positive. So I let them know, like, if you haven't checked it yet, it's posted. Maybe you weren't as successful. Here are some resources that we can kind of work on.
It also doesn't look like you're targeting them either. It looks almost like a general email that you'd be sending the whole class. Like, hey, if you haven't checked your grade, go check it out.
Well, true, except this really does say, I see you were not as successful.
Oh, okay.
So it does go to students who really didn't do well. The great thing about this, as I mentioned earlier, is that when I sent this last semester, I had 4 different students email me back and say, you're right, I wasn't as successful. Thank you for these options. I'll definitely use the Math Center. And they really responded with, this was realistic. And the first one I got, I was like, what is this? Oh yeah, my intelligent agent ran. So it was super helpful. And then the schedule for this, I would just schedule it for close to when the course was going to, or the test was going to be completed. And then there's a couple other ones I did if a grade was below 75% or a missing submission. So those are kind of the main ones that I tried to cover.
Yeah.
And you can see results of last run. If I click on this, it actually tells me the student that was emailed, and it shows me the actual email that was sent. So it's kind of good to kind of get an idea of what was actually sent and when. It's nice that they will give us all that information. So.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I'm running out of time, Jason.
Yeah, so before we go, we just want to mention that our next coffee talk, which is in 2 weeks, will be on how to use PowerPoint for live captions. So whether or not you're using PowerPoint in Zoom, using PowerPoint in your classroom, you can actually have it do live closed captioning for free right there in PowerPoint. So stay tuned for that one by Adrian in a couple weeks. We'll be sending out a survey to get your feedback on some of the coffee talks that we've been having so far. But for Carrie and myself, this has been another edition of Coffee Talk.
Cheers. Let's go get our refill.
It's time for a refill. I hope you guys enjoyed. See you next time.
All right. If anybody has any questions and wants to stay and pop on and ask questions, we'll be here for a couple minutes.
I got 5 because people can play.
Hey guys, I got a question about the attendance book agent that's built in.
Yeah.
There's a configurable percentage, and I don't know what that is or what its purpose is. So it says, warn at a certain percentage.
So if you go, you said attendance.
Yeah.
So click cancel on this.
Is it okay? It's
So
in
if
the-
you go to the attendance tool, Frank,
Yep.
you can set up in your register a criteria for what is improper attendance, and it's going to look at that. So
That cause for concern, is that when their attendance is less than 75%?
Mhm.
Or,
whatever you set it as. So if we go to set up a new register,
and then what happens at that point?
so in the attendance tool, nothing's going to happen. But if you set up an intelligent agent to look at that
Okay,
percentage,
cool.
then it'll
So-
automate that email.
All right, that makes sense. Yep. Cool. Thank you.
Not a problem. Who else has questions?
No one.
Awesome. Yeah, Meg, I saw that it came up as Connor, and I was like, I thought that was Meg, but okay. Just was making sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, guys. Good
Not a
stuff.
problem.
Thank you.
All right,
Did you
guys.
post the link?
Oh, yes, we will post the link to the survey, or
You lost it.
no, I didn't. It's set to go privately to somebody, and I
You
lost your
disappeared
mouse.
into the kitchen.
Can you have it set to privately? Only send it to one person right now. Gotta send it to the group. Sorry, I don't do well with Macs, so I'll let Carrie deal with that one.
Oh, jeez.
A lot of people are sticking around, but no questions. I see some of my students on here might be getting extra credit for attending. Just saying. Not that
As
I
long
offer
as they
them
don't
that.
comment on your dear first name.
Yeah, dear first name. Yeah, that was a. All right, guys. Well,
Awesome.
thanks for joining us.
Thank you.